Hi, my name is Specialist Vada Dobbins. Was in the United States Army, and you're watching Dingo Talk.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. Very special episode. Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there. Thank you for your service. This episode, we are going to be with United States retired Army specialist Vada Dobbins. I went to high school with Vada, so this interview hits really close for home for me. Vada's going to explain why he made the decision to go into the military, his time in the military, and what he's doing now outside of back in civilian life, I guess you would say. But without further ado, this is Vada Dobbins.
You wanna know by now. You wanna know by now. You wanna know by now. You wanna know. You wanna know.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is the Dingo Talk show. It's Dingo Talk. It's not the show. Don't worry about that. This is Specialist Vada Dobbins. United States Army, served 3 terms.
It was only two.
Two tours in overseas with as a specialist. We're going to talk to Vada about everything that we normally do, except this one he's going to explain to us as a 18-year-old kid why he made a decision to go into the military, and he chose to make it 2 tours and then come back, and what he's doing now. Vada, so you and I, we know each other. 15 years now. We've known each other. Let's talk about your backstory. How did we get to senior year at Plum High School where you're going to make this decision?
So basically, I actually grew up when I was a child. I actually grew up in this. It was called South Fayette County. I was young, so I don't really remember too much about it. But then after that, I remember I moved to Highlands. Went from Highlands basically all the way from till 2nd grade. Was in the middle of my 2nd grade year, and after that, my mom was informed me that we were moving to Plum. So basically, I went to Plum for my 2nd grade, like the middle end of 2nd grade year, all the way to my senior year of high school. So that's kind of what brings me into where I was at today.
So, and not only the military side of you wasn't just a sporadic thing. You were involved in ROTC at Plum. You were active on the football team. There were other options that might have been out there to you. Why did at the decision of graduation or earlier, why the military for you? What was the reasoning?
So I'll be honest with you, wasn't really a school guy.
Kind of a swear, bro.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So I basically would just like when I looked at school was like socializing. It was just nice to come and then like talk to people and get to know people, flourish my wings kind of sort of. But it was right around my junior year, I was like, there's got to be something else I can do to utilize all my skills that I'm currently using. And I internally my junior year, like it was right at the beginning, I told myself like this school thing is probably not going to work. Like college is probably not going to work. And so I started looking for other alternative means of going to school. That's actually my junior year. We were at an invitational track. Recruiters saw me doing long jump. Shoot to a couple days later, I saw her outside of outside the cafeteria. We came, talked, did a couple push-ups. She gave me some paperwork. Wasn't pushy at all. She just floated it out there. And from that moment forward, I thought about it.
When you had, as a junior, you walked away from football because due to some injuries and some looking longevity wise as maybe college isn't where I'm going, football quickly took a back burner. And when it came down to it, you said, this is the angle I want to go.
Basically, because you know me, man. I loved me some football, man. I loved it.
And for all of you out there that never got to see this man play, he will be modest and tell you, but anybody that was in school between, I don't know, 2008 to 2010 would tell you there was a really solid quad east outside linebacker, and this the quad east of Gateway, Woodland Hills, Penn Hills, Central Catholic. We played some legitimate people. This man was not only a legitimate outside linebacker, probably gets D2 looks, and that's just me now knowing what people look for. But on the running back side, he was also your, oh, I have some linemen that they'll give me a crease. Might not have been the greatest line, but they'll give me a crease and I can lower my shoulder. That was this guy here. He would like to lower the boom if he could, any chance he could. And he never got up as a problem. The other person, not so much. They were in recovery. But so junior year, it starts to come into a picture that I got to find something else. This is my next move.
So it was at this point in time, it was about the end of my junior year. My father, who was in and out of my life my entire life, which I'm not ashamed of, not ashamed to talk about, but he came back into my life. And my father, like I said earlier, in and out of my life my entire life. So I didn't really know much about my father. It was at this time I told him I was thinking about joining the military. And he told me at that point in time that he was like, I was in the military. And that was something I did not know. I was like, I had no idea that he was in the military. Like,
so almost like without knowing, following in footsteps.
Yeah, right. So and then full circle, once we get to the end, you gotta remind me, don't let me forget. But so basically I talked to him about it. He told me that it was a good option. He was like, you're physically there. He was like, you're not worried about that at all. He was like, you live with your mother, so the screaming is not gonna really affect you that much. So after that, I like decided to dedicate to it. And then over the summertime I came back, and that's when everyone realized, like, where was Vada at camp? The 2 days, like where was Vada at camp? Yeah, like everybody.
I had to lie to a bunch of people because I already talked to Vada and I knew Vada wasn't coming to camp. But people went, "Where's Vada?" I don't know. If you remember, junior year into senior year, Coach Sacker takes over. I got myself into some trouble early on in camp. I wasn't the best spokesperson for somebody. But my question is, at what point, or if any, did you speak? Because being Plum students, we had the ability to talk to Chief Spear, Mage Kolar, and I always forget his last name. There was another chief, and I forget his last name. Shorter guy. His name too. You know him. No, Spear. We know Spear.
The shorter one. I always forget his name. The short one.
But we had two chiefs and a major, and they all three had served in, and that was kind of what their ROTC program was kind of built around. Is that, hey, if this is an outlet you want to take, we can help you. We all took a lot of visits to a lot of different places. We got to see Annapolis. We got to see Gettysburg. We got to see Virginia Beach.
I think we went to DC too once or twice.
We did DC. Like we did Norfolk. We did the whole nine with that.
Yeah.
So at any time did you talk to these people, or because I remember, and I'm just gonna throw it out there because Vada is who he is. At one point, I was the second in command in the classroom, and Vada had to take ROTC orders from me. Well, shortly it changed. He was really in the military, and I was a college football player at Bethany. So, but at any point, did you talk to the mage, chief, anybody, or was this something that you kind of kept to your own, maybe talk to the guidance counselor about, but this is where you thought you were going?
So basically, not gonna lie, really looked up to all the people that was in ROTC. Loved every single one of them dudes. Not gonna lie, was kind of hesitant to go to them about it because I was totally set on joining the Army. And you know how the in-house rivalry, dude. You know how it is, man. So I just knew that
Air Force guys weren't gonna have a good.
Yeah, they weren't gonna be totally on board with it. But the funny thing was, graduated, did the whole nine, went to basic training, ended up coming back, and the ROTC program was still going on. Walked into the high school. I went downstairs, and there's Major Chief. All of them were sitting in the second office, the second
right
office.
Next to the old bookstore,
yep.
School store.
Yep. So I walked in there, and they were like, "Look at this dude." And then we get to talking, and he was like, "Would you join?" And I was like, "I ended up joining the Army." And I was so hesitant to talk about it, But I remember in that moment, they all like, they were like, dude, we're so proud of you, man. Like, it's like, it was like, man, I can't believe like you thought like you were gonna hide it from us. He was like, yeah, we're a little sad, but he was like, but look at you now. Like, look at you now. Like,
well, so let's talk about that a little bit. You bring up basic training, and that was obviously there's a lot of, there's the videos that float around YouTube where it's a bunch of guys running into a gas chamber, take your mask off, everybody runs out, and that's the only thing you show. Basic training for somebody coming out of high school, that's what they decided to do. What is basic training like beginning to end?
So there's a lot of misconceptions about basic training, and I was guilty of that. So when I got to Fort Knox, Kentucky, I thought I was in basic training. Like when I got there, you issued your uniforms. And then, so when I actually got there, I actually left I got there June 28th of 2010. So what I didn't realize was the government loves their holidays. So
yes,
shortly thereafterwards, so shortly thereafterwards, the 4th of July hit. And then, they call it reception. I was in reception for about 2 weeks. So reception, you get in the normal toil life of basic training. You live in these huge bays with all these dudes. You got your closet. All your stuff has to be dressed. All has to be organized. It all has to be nice. You have to make your bed. All that. It basically gives you an introduction into it. So when I was there, I was under the assumption that I was already in basic. And so I remember I was sitting in the one of the older drill sergeant's offices, and I was like, man, this basic training is pretty easy. I have my cell phone. I have this, that, and the next. And then he was like, dude, you're not in basic training right now, bud. And I was like, what, Sergeant? And he was like, yeah, you're not in basic training right now. He was like, this is reception. Like, you get your shots, like your uniforms. Like, you're not in basic training right now. And I was like, holy cow. I couldn't believe it. Like, it was mind-blowing.
So basically, you almost go into an intake where they soften that blow.
But it's a mind trick too. So like while that was going on, the drill sergeants that were going to be in charge of us, they would be watching from a distance though, picking out the people. They
wanted to. Oh, yeah. You're my guy. Yeah. We're gonna be friends.
Yeah. So, a couple days go by, we get our ship date. We get all of our stuff. Get on a bus. Drive around Fort Knox, Kentucky for about it seemed like hours. Finally get to our destination, and what do I see on the hillside from the bus? See all these dudes on this hillside with their arms crossed, trooper shades, and instead of the drill sergeant hat, they had Stetsons on because I was a Cav Scout, and so the Stetson was like that's Cav's thing. So they didn't have drill sergeant hats; they had cowboy hats on. So
and you're on the bus looking at this going,
yeah, looking up the hillside. So I'll never forget this moment from the day that I die. I will tell my kids about this. So bus door comes open, drill sergeants come flying down the hill. They're on the bus in an instant. I've never felt fear like that in my entire life. And like you said earlier, like I was like, I was big bad Dobbins, you know what I mean? Like no one really messed with me, man. Like I would consider myself, I was like at the top of the food chain, man. No one really messed with me, dude.
Let's point out there was a fight where an elderly, respected English teacher was involved, and Vada single-handedly walked into a stairwell, put both people this way, and I know you can't see where my arms go, but you can assume, and looked at the teacher. It was Miss Drum.
Miss Drum, yes, it was Miss Drum.
Thank God, forget senior year. Miss Drum, he looks at Miss Drum while holding both of these dudes back from fighting and going, Miss Drum, you can go back to your classroom. We got this from here. And the rest of us we knew what our jobs were. Vada was just there to, y'all are done. And now.
Cool for that. Cool for that.
From basic, what was the everyday life in basic? Like if somebody is going in right now, like they're like you, they're coming out of high school, they're going right to basic.
So
what is it like for them?
the one thing I will say is like just from the little time that I was in, dude, it changes rapidly all the time. So some things might be a little different than what they were from like that I experienced. You know what I mean? Like I definitely will say that because like it's the Army, it has to change and rapidly change. But
Absolutely,
everyday life would look something like this. You would wake up, by your drill sergeants, or like before your drill sergeants got there, or you didn't want to wake up when they were getting there. So that was about like 04, 05. Go out, do PT, minimum 2 hours. You get back, get some downtime, a little bit of downtime. And by downtime, I mean like cleaning, making sure everything is spotless.
Make sure it's where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, like where it's be. And then so and then depending on where you were at in basic training, like different things would happen. So like I'd go after PT, you take your downtime a little bit, you'd wait a little bit, then you get on like you'd ruck out to like the grenade range, or you'd ruck to the gas chamber, you know what I mean, or you'd ruck to the obstacle course, or the one thing they did to us was they'd call the buses, and then you would look, and they'd be like, "There you go, privates. We call these buses over here to make you strong because you ain't never gonna ride a bus ever once you're here." And then we would just walk to wherever it would be. And so once you got back, went to dinner chow. Sometimes you would do dinner chow out in the field. Like it just kind of depended. But if you were able to make it back, you go to dinner chow, and then basically you rack out. Now, a thing that people don't ever talk about in the movies and in the basic training and stuff, whenever you see it, is the evening times. Like, what do you do in the evening? So in the Army, you have to get a specific amount of hours of sleep. Like that's a rule. But out of 2 of those hours, you have to be either A, cleaning, or B, sitting at a desk pulling what we call fire watch. So they patrol the floor, make sure everyone's accounted for, make sure no one's going AWOL, because AWOL is a big thing in basic training. So you do one of those 2 things for 2 hours of dedicated time.
Well, so can I ask you, what does if somebody does decide to go AWOL in basic training, what is the procedure? Are you going to look for them, or are they now just?
So it's a part of it's a part of the kind of the mind game. So you can pick out a basic training soldier from a group of people. You can't, because it's the reason why basics, you see, in the movies, you see them go getting their head shaved. They're all wearing the same thing. Like you didn't have access to your civilian clothes. So when you leave, you would inevitably have to go to the store to change out of those clothes. Someone's going to see you. Like
Somebody's going to see you in uniform.
Yeah, like someone's going to see you. And granted, there are normal units on Fort Knox, like that have like the normal soldiers that are in basic. But once again, you can pick out, like if it was a group of 100 people, you can be like, yeah, that's the dude that's in basic training. So what happens is they'll normally either A, try to take a bus, B, or they'll hike out, or they'll get on an airplane, or one way or another. But there'll be MPs and cops at the airports. They'll be on the railroad tracks. Like Fort Knox is geographically located to prevent anyone from going AWOL, because there's nothing around, and then you have to go to Louisville. But they normally get found. They bring them back, and then they ask them like, "Hey, you can either start back from the beginning, or we can get you out of the military. It's one of the 2." So the latter being worse.
How does that work? If you're going to go the other option, you're going to, maybe the military's not for you.
So I had my first sergeant. He'd walk around. He sounded like this. He was like, "All right, soldiers, I'll tell you." First time I was like, "I'll tell you one time." He was like, "And I'll ask every time. If you don't want to be here, just let me know. I'll get you out. I'll get you out the proper way. But you gotta let me know." He was like, "Because if you don't let me know, I'm going to destroy your entire career." So like, it was open. You know what I mean?
If you're willing to say, "Hey, this isn't for me,"
exactly.
But if you're not, but then you ditch. Okay, so, and if I'm inappropriate at any point, please let me know, because you served. And I want to do the whole, the PR part of this, but because you're my boy and I want to let you know, thank you. I appreciate everything you've done.
Oh man, I appreciate that, dude. Man, thank you for thanking me, bro. I appreciate that, man.
you fought for what I'm doing right now, is the ability to do this, is to talk to people.
Man, I never really saw myself as, like, I never really saw myself as a hero, you know what I mean? Or like anything like of that sort. You know me, bro. I've always been like, I try to be as humble as I possibly can. And I never really viewed myself as like a hero while I was in, or like a Captain America or anything. Like how I looked at it was,
No, you were doing what your job was to do.
yeah, exactly. I was just, and then I was like, man, like I know that I can be good at this. And I was like, I know I'll be able to succeed.
I'm sure that other people have thanked you because they know that you have served as well. But coming from where we grew up and where we graduated from, if nobody from Plum has said it to you, I will on camera say it. I appreciate everything you've done.
Man, I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
And that's where I want to go into our next spot. So, what was, out of basic, what was your first deployment?
So my first deployment, I went to Kandahar, which was in RC South. So it's actually a funny story because I went to bomb dog school before that, and which was random. It was the most random thing ever. Unfortunately, ended up not passing the course like all the way, but was able to have the experience, and I'm happy that I wasn't able to get the dog over there when I was overseas, because I was able to be there for my guys when I was over there, when I was deployed on the ground, because they needed dudes. Like they needed dudes really, really bad. So I left, what was that? So technically it would be considered leaving in 2012. I was gone all of 2012. I got back January of 2013.
Yeah, because that's when I saw you. That was when we ran into each other. Me, you, Cummings, Emmerich. We ran into each other.
Oh, yeah, that was so long ago. Yeah.
That was your first time you were back stateside and you came straight home.
Yeah. So the everyday life in Afghanistan. So how I explain it to my civilian friends so it's easy for them to understand, because like it's hard to wrap your brain around like just that. Like going outside the wire, like you're going into hostile territory. So how I describe it to people that are in the civilian sector is, imagine you wake up in the morning and you're preparing to go to work, and you turn on the TV and you see on the TV that wherever you're at, the zoo, all the animals got free. They all broke free and they're in the wild. Tigers, lions, grizzly bears, cheetahs.
You're on lockdown, basically.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. But dude, they didn't lock anything down. Everything was still up and running, and you still had to go to work to get your money. So you have to internally, when you're about to walk out that door, come to a realization that if you go out that door to go to work, there is a chance. I mean, it might be a slim chance, but there is a chance you could run into a lion. You could run into a tiger. You could run into a bear.
You know what? So that we can have enough for that second part of this episode, because I think this is a good spot to hit you with a pause. We're gonna take a timeout real quick. We're going to take a Ron Richards timeout for our Plum friends, or a Billy Ramito, but Coach Ramito never called a timeout. Ever. We got 30 years worth of timeouts stored. But Vada, I want you, for the second part, we're going to start right here, right at the, you could walk out your door. But I do have to send it to one of my sponsors. His name is KJ, Kieran Dunn, Maple Shade Outdoors. For you specifically, I know that you are an aficionado of the Warren County tri-state area, Allegheny Forest, where, KJ does a lot of things between New York, Ohio, West Virginia, Maryland. He is everything outdoors. You want to make sure you check him out. Get over to YouTube, Maple Shade Outdoors, subscribe to his channel. Before you do that, you want to hit like, because Vada will come and beat you up if you don't. You want to hit like and subscribe. I promise you, he looks more vicious than he is. But KJ does everything outdoors, Maple Shade Outdoors. You can follow him on Instagram. It's maple_shade.outdoors. Follow him. but we will be back with specialist Vada Dobbins. I am.
What's going on, everybody? This is Kieran Dunn, founder of Maple Shade Outdoors. You're currently watching Dingo Talk with my man Carlo. If you're anything like me and you're really enjoying this content, you should like and subscribe his page. While you're on YouTube, you should probably just head over and like and subscribe Maple Shade Outdoors. Check out our page, enjoy some videos, some outdoor content. You might as well hop on Instagram, Facebook, follow us, Maple Shade Outdoors. Now that's enough about me. I'm trying to get back and watch the rest of Dingo Talk, so I'll talk to y'all later.
I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. My guest is specialist Vada Dobbins from the United States Army, retired Army veteran. We have him here on Veterans Day, Veterans Week. I don't want to call it Veterans Day. We release on Thursdays, so it's it's not going to be Veterans Day per se, but Veterans Day. We are talking to a guy that did it. We left off everyday life, Afghanistan. And you were talking about coming out, walking out in your everyday. What was that like?
Oh, so basically, like what I tell my civilian friends is, walk outside, all the lions, the tigers, the bears from the zoo, they're released. Nothing's closed. You still have to go to work. You still have to show up. So when you walk out that door, there's a chance. Might not be a high one, but it's still a chance. You might run into a lion, a tiger, or a bear, but you still gotta go to work to A, provide for your family, and B, to prove something to yourself. So that is what I tell people whenever people ask me what it's like to walk around in Afghanistan.
And the people that you served with, that was a neutral mentality of, oh no, like not only do we owe this to the people, but who are you? Man up kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of. So walking around everyday life, it was like walking on
eggshells.
I would say it was like walking on like the Allegheny River in the wintertime with the ice is over it. You're walking
enough that it looks okay.
And then you step on it, and that's kind of what it's like over there in Afghanistan. It's really the internal, like as you're walking, like anything can happen. A bullet can come, a grenade can go off, an ambush can happen. I can step on an IED. Someone in front of me can step on an IED. Like it was real. Like it was like real life.
In that first enlistment, did anything like that you would be comfortable about talking about? Is there anything like that during that first enlistment that you had to go through in your experience?
So there was a moment when it was basically like a dismounted team, and so basically we found a whole bunch of these IEDs in the ground. I'm going to long story shorter for you, so it's not too crazy. So
yeah, make sure you take. Yeah, we don't need the.
Yeah. So basically, found a whole bunch of these. We called them toe poppers. They were just like a water bottle filled with HME, which is homemade explosives. We found a whole bunch of them in the ground. Poured our Thors out, which is something that is able to block signal from coming in and going out. So nothing goes in, nothing comes out.
Nobody pushing a button that's going to cause a.
It's not. Yeah. So walking around. A guy ended up stepping in the wrong spot, but both of his legs just gone. I responded to it, ran up on this guy, and it was strange, seeing like walking up on that situation. You would think you see in the movies they scream, they yell. He was dead quiet.
You have no idea, because I'm assuming if it happens immediately, you have no idea. You're still you, but then.
Yeah. But he just looked straight up in the air and just like looked at me in my eyes, and like he didn't make any noise. It was wild. He ended up living. Like we never been able to save him. But that moments like that put in perspective, because like before that, it was 3 months before we ever had anything happen to us. You know what I mean? So imagine going 3 months. Eventually, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, eventually you get into your guard gets lowered a little bit, even though because you're used to the normal day-to-day life over there. But then it's moments like that would happen that would put things in perspective for you, put things in perspective for you to like it's real and it can happen at any point in time. So that's it's a little bit like that's the day to day, and then so you do one patrol in the day and get back after at midday. You get back and you just wait until the next day, next morning. You do tower guard stuff like that.
So when you came back, there was somebody waiting to basically they're going to do the same exact patrol that you do.
Like basically like every day the same thing in different areas. You do different routes, you know, not readable or whatever, but we were in charge and responsible for a specific area. We would meet with the they called them like the Afghan police. So you would meet with these local like basically like PDs and like, you know, here I live in Colorado, so Colorado Springs PD, they have the same thing. So you would meet with their police force and they would take you to problem areas and then you would help them in any way to complete the mission. So it was more when I was over there, it was more of a let them take the reins and then they tell us how we can support them in a nutshell. That's basically how it went. So you go out, ask them if there's anything they need, do a patrol. You do that for like till midday, 1700, get back, and then you mess around and so you SP the next day. So when you're back on like the fob, you know, you just there's, you know, limited supplies of food. It's not like here. You can't just go to like a grocery store and just get whatever you want. What's there is what gets dropped there or what comes there on a truck. So, you know, you got to be kind to everybody, make sure everyone gets a piece. You didn't go into the chow hall and like take 15 of a power bar because everyone wanted a power bar. So it was kind of like you had to live together on this post in the middle of nowhere, Afghanistan, and survive. But it was it was the reason why it was so awesome and why I loved it so much is because the brothers and the sisters that I made there, it was fantastic. Like it was awesome.
So you bring that up, the brothers, the sisters that you developed, and in a college lifestyle, you may or may not have gone in a Greek route to build that, but not in the same way. You built a camaraderie of we're all here, we have a sole goal, we might as well work together. What was the camaraderie like on that day-to-day spectrum, like the people that were there with you, or maybe even for new people that were landing and deploying as well? What was the nucleus of the community like for you guys?
It was awesome. So imagine living in a tent with like with like 20 other dudes. Like there was two, like they had these huge tents, like they're huge, and so they're broken into two sides. And so, you know, the privates and the Joes and everything, they would stay in one tent, and then the NCOs would be on the other side of the tent. But y'all all were together. And like I'm talking every single day, 24/7. Like you're always
that
together.
Was your family, that was your home, that was
chow. You got back from patrol, you went to chow together, you sat the chow, you go to gym together, you would talk about your problems. Like you get a letter from your girl and it's not going well, you talk about that. Family problems get brought up, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And you would just like live like that's like you were family. Like that's how it was.
So let me ask you on the since you brought up the letters from the females and that and being overseas for that, and I'm sure you dealt with it a bunch. There's this whole the Dear John. Is that a real fear?
So I wouldn't, not really. It really comes to fruition like when you get home, if that makes sense.
So it's not when you're there, it's when you have to come back and reacclimate and
yeah. So the Dear John thing it's that now that's a thing in basic training though. Like
so it's a basic training thing, not a go overseas and you're gone.
Yeah, like so they had this saying when you get back, they said like 6 months. Like the 6 months is like that's the sweet spot. That's what they said because it's 6 months. That's when your brain. So it's when your brain wraps around like everything you did over there, like your life over there, like all the glee and joy from being home is gone, and then you're in that sudden realization of like this is what it is. So at that 6 month mark, that's when you normally start seeing the like a lot of the, you know, self-imposed suicides and issues that pop up with that stuff. So, but you see divorce rates and girlfriends breaking up at that 6 month mark.
Well, so let me ask you. So you got to that point. I happened to have the fortune of being home that Christmas break, and you and I got to see each other. I think we ran into each other at a PacSun. It wasn't a planned thing, but we ended up meeting at a bar later on. Why, for you individually, and maybe some of the people that you were deployed with, why the decision to reenlist after you did your 4 years? So now you qualify for the GI Bill, correct?
Yep.
You have a pension from the federal government from being a serviceman. Why was the second enrollment something that you decided to do, I guess, is the question that I'm getting at.
So I get I'm pretty sure everyone can equate something to life when they found their true calling. And so like when I was in Afghanistan and I was just doing the day-to-day life and like living that life and being there, I felt a sense of knowing like this is what I need to do.
This is where I belong.
This is where I belong. I'm good in the chaos. I react well under the chaos. And
not to cut you off, but what is that like? The once you've been there long enough that you get the opportunity, because it's every 4 years you re-enlist. So you did 8 years total. When you're in that, and that's where your mental state has gone, is that I'm doing a service. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. How does, did you learn the language of the country? You were fluent in Arabic. You were able to speak to people. I mean, what all comes with that? How do you come to that decision 4 years later from being in Afghanistan?
It was a mixture of talking to some of your buddies, talking to like your senior leadership. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a little bit of a fear factor because when you talk to some dudes, they're like, dude, there's nothing out there, man. Like this is what you got.
This is it.
Yeah, this is it. So it's kind of a fear thing that's like, man, I'm scared like to go out and and why would I leave something that I'm good? You know what I mean? I can just do my 20 and then I can retire and we're good, right? So that was a part of, the whole making the decision to re-enlist to stay in because I just felt like I wasn't done. You know what I mean? I had more.
So 4 years later, you serve your second term. Is there anything that stands out in that second tour that you... I know that, hey, as a veteran, I understand it. There's some things that you might not want to talk about, but is there anything out there that you would like to talk about it and not compromise anybody that might still be in?
No, I think the I think the one thing I learned about from the second is just being patient. Like honestly, like just being patient. I was a little antsy wanting to get back. Just really, really antsy. But I made a lot of decisions off of impulse because I knew what I was getting myself into.
Yeah.
And looking back on it, I think I wish I would have just thought about things a little bit more.
So you say that, and let's go. I want to stay with you still being active. NCOs versus being an enlisted is kind of a common myth, right? Because to be an NCO, you almost have to be an enlisted guy. And we dealt with that in the major and the chief and there was a difference there.
So basically like enlisted personnel, those are the people that they didn't go to college. They didn't go to you can go to college and then still be enlisted. There's more benefits to go to college and then go to officer school and then become an officer. But an enlisted personnel is the only thing that can become an NCO. So you have to be an enlisted in order to become an NCO.
So the non-commissioned officer has nothing to do with you went to college, you got a 4-year degree, you went to officer school, you come out, you're an NCO. That has nothing to do with that.
So basically, so how it works is, so you automatically get the rank E1 through E4, which is where I was at. You automatically get that. You
Okay.
automatically get it. Like you get your E4 at 2 years. So your 5, in order to get your 5, you have to go to a board. A board is like equatable to like basically you meet with like a CEO of a company, which would be like your sergeant major of your what battalion or how there's different ways that people have battalion, but we have battalion. But anyway, so it's the command sergeant major, which is an enlisted personnel, and then the first sergeants of all the companies. You meet with them, they ask you questions, and then they basically about your job and everything, and then they're like, we recommend this dude to be promoted to E5. You get on a list. You
So
get your
it's to them.
yeah.
It has nothing to do if somebody nominate or not nominates, but puts you up for that. Like, hey, this dude needs to be. You still got to go before this council board, and they make the final decision of we recommend Vada Dobbins becomes a specialist.
Exactly.
And
Exactly. So that would be from special. So you would be from specialist to E5. So once you become an E5, you're considered a non-commissioned officer. So after that, you have to get one more board, the same thing, E5 to get to E6. And then, so once you get to E6, E7, there's so much mathematicals and like numbers and stuff with that and all the craziness that goes on. But in order to get your E7, you basically have to make a list, basically that the government, they look over this list of all these people and they go through, pick the best of the best, and then they promote those people on to E7.
So well, here's my question. When you decide, so you served 8 years, two tours in Afghanistan. You were a frontline guy. You were there. Why the decision when you made it, and when you made it? Why was that where you decided, or does that fall into a medical field? The military decided that we needed you here. I mean, you at 8 years and 8 years of frontline combat, I'm assuming you've made your way. So what was the decision to walk away from the military?
So unfortunately, I ended up getting hurt pretty bad. So I got out here. I'll long story short, but I got out here. My body wasn't really acclimated to the height the height changeover. So I went from Washington, like Seattle, Washington, like Washington State, at sea level, below sea level. Got to Colorado, went from at sea level, below sea level, went up to 65. I think we sit at 62, like 6,200 feet up in the air.
Yeah, I mean that's Mile High Stadium gives you.
Yeah. So we ended up once I got here, ended up going straight out to the field. My body just wasn't adapting very well.
Wait, this is you. You come from Afghanistan. They bring you back. So married, for those that don't know, he's married. He's happily married. He's a wonderfully married man. His wife is wonderful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But all right. So what happened? This is kind of what the re-enlistment thing. So when you re-enlist, especially when you're in a war zone, when you're re-enlisting, because that's a big deal, they basically let you pick wherever you want to go. And then so I was able to, fortunately enough, be able to pick Colorado because this is where I always wanted to go. So I went out to Colorado. Once I got out here, it's called a PCS, so a permanent change of duty station. Once I got out here, I didn't acclimate very well. I went out to the field, ended up passing out on the mountainside. I woke up in the hospital.
Elevation wise, right?
Yeah.
It's not good for your body.
Yeah, no. So passed out, woke up in the hospital. Basically, I was in what is called rhabdomyolysis. It's like when your muscle tissue breaks down to the point of no return, and then it gets in your bloodstream and it shuts down your kidneys. So for like a year, on and off, I was in and out of the hospital, renal failure, in and out of the hospital. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to recover and bounce back from it. So I had to get medically discharged from the military from it because it was due to.
Now, how does that process work? That's an honorable discharge, correct?
Yeah. So of course. So when you get medically discharged from the military, it's under honorable circumstances. But since you're if you get medically retired, which is over a certain percentage, you basically get all the benefits of a person that did 20 plus years and retire. So I still have my TRICARE for me and my wife that you mentioned. I still, and then
Wonderful lady.
yeah,
Wonderful lady.
thank you, I appreciate it. I also
She's
get
gonna watch this. She becomes a viewer. The more I say, wonderful lady.
you know it, dude, you know it. But so and then basically with that rating, there's an army rating that basically says if you retain your TRICARE, your army benefits, and then the VA, which is a separate disability, that's when you get your monthly stipend, or as you might know it as a pension. So you have to go through the
Is
process.
there anything as somebody that receives those type of benefits? Is there anything from the VA that maybe, and I don't want to get into the political side of it, but on the way that they do their job, has it hurt you or helped you? And have they done what they're supposed to do for you as somebody that served 8 years serving your country, protecting what we do here every day and what I get to do? Is that what the VA is doing right now, or is what we hear out there kind of true that the VA doesn't give a damn about Vada Dobbins coming back from?
So how I put it is when I first got out, it was kind of a struggle. But now the resources that I was able to utilize from the VA are phenomenal. Like I have no qualms because we all been there in our sad moments. And
Do yours.
we feel like we don't got no place to go. And I'm not ashamed to say that. I struggle with PTSD and depression. You know what I mean? I have no problem saying that. But the reason why I'm able to say that is because I was able to reach out to the VA, and the VA reached out to me, and they got me through the proper channels to talk to who I needed to talk to.
Well,
and if it wasn't for them,
I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to touch on that a little bit before we get to the end of this segment.
yeah, of course, of course.
So it's real. You come back here, it's a struggle to assimilate back into being a civilian from being every day. There's a high, Cam, you said high level threat, right? That was the word we used. So you went from high level threat every day walking out of the tent to coming back to America, and there is that ability to go talk to people and be able to explain how you feel, where these people are trained to do this. You're not coming out and being kind of tossed aside, I guess is the word I would use, because it seems that for the most part we hear it's veterans they come back and they get tossed aside. And you're saying you came back and you had the opportunity, from what you knew, go talk to the right people. They got it. So there is the right people out there to guide the military base coming back to America, especially, we're talking 2021, everything's supposed to be gone. And I'm not politic wise, I'm just saying military wise, talking to a veteran, they're all coming home supposedly in September.
No, and I can tell you for a fact that it's true. Like it's actually happening.
So they're coming back in September. Yeah. What's there for those guys coming back is a system that you were able to utilize to your benefit to help you almost assimilate back into normal society. So for those of you that don't know, Vada works in the he's a security officer, but he works in the side of, he watches you on camera, and when he knows that you're about to steal something, he meets you at the front door. And from this view, doesn't help you. But let me tell you, when you see some of the Snapchats this guy sends, there's a big guy and there's a small guy trying to steal something from Lowe's.
Home Depot.
And they run into Vada and they go, "Oh, my fault, bro. I'm sorry. Here you go. Here's a bag." And well, then he has to do his job. But so there is a process to come back and assimilate back in. What is that? How does that process go for you? Like you said, it was a little tough at the beginning, but now you have all these benefits, the VA plus your job. How do you come back as a guy? You know, the Vada that I knew at 18 years old obviously isn't the Vada that I know at 26 years old.
So how I would describe it is, so when you get back from, so when you leave and when you get back, it's called SRP, and then when you leave, it's called SRP, and then when you get back, it's called reverse SRP. So they ask you, like, you know, like on the reverse side, they ask you, like, hey, like, how was it? Were you exposed to anything crazy? Like, what happened over there? Do you need to talk to somebody? And I would say 9.9 times out of 10, because you're home, you're happy, bro. You just got back. You're happy as
you're happy. Not saying anything to
you're like a kid. You're like a kid in Christmas. Like, you remember when you were a kid in Christmas? You're like that. That's what it feels like. So I would guarantee you, and I was the same way. 9.9 times out of 10, you probably be like, no, I'm good, man. I'm fine. But then that 6-month mark. Remember, we were talking about the 6-month thing.
Talked about it.
Yeah, so the 6-month hit, and then that's when you start seeing the problems. Like, I'm anxious. I don't even know what anxious is. I'm scanning. I'm all over the place. I'm looking around. I'm paranoid. I think I'm seeing stuff. I'm having horrible nightmares, like stuff like that. That is what made me realize that I needed to go talk to somebody. And, you know, unfortunately, I had some really, really good friends that, you know, they didn't go talk to people, and unfortunately, they're not here with us anymore.
They've gone.
Yeah. And
we share these people in our area, especially.
Yeah. And so if there's one thing that, like, the people that are watching this, if you're a vet or even if you're just a normal person, like, and you can relate to this, if there's one thing if you take one thing away from this, is if you can go talk to somebody, do it. I know you might not.
Here's my question to you saying that. Go talk to somebody, right? It doesn't, and I want to say this to everybody out there. I all call you chuckleheads, but you're people to me. You're this family that we're building. This is a guy that has seen things, seen terrible things, seen good things, seen terrible things, had to come back and talk to somebody, and isn't ashamed to say that he came back and talked to somebody. If you're going through something, don't think there's somebody that's not out there that will help you. There are people that we care. I'm sure that especially you saw it from being a 2010 enlist to a 2018 retiree. You saw it in mental health is a big deal. We take it very seriously.
Yes.
And I know they don't know. You and I, we've talked since you got back, and we know, both of us, we share mental issues, that it's good to have somebody, even if it's not, you're not going to go out and pay somebody, but you have a good friend that you know that's the person you're supposed to talk to, or just tell them. And if they don't react the right way, maybe their way is the right way. They're off it. They don't agree with you. Talk to them, right? That's the biggest message. Just talk to somebody.
Yeah, just talk to somebody, because how I would say it, there's only whenever you start thinking sad, you start spiraling, and eventually that's got to go.
Eventually, there's a funnel at the bottom of the spiral.
So get out of the spiral. Talk to somebody, and if that's one thing y'all take from me, just talk to somebody. You'd be surprised.
So I led into that one, got a little deep in the show, so that I could throw it to you for the last. We got 2 minutes left.
I got you.
Here's what I want. If military or not, mental health, where do you sit? Where go get your help? Obviously, we know. If you have somebody you can talk to, go talk to them. But for the military people that might tune into this, because, you know, you share it, I share it, we get out to different networks. If you're having a problem, Vada, how do you handle the healthiest way right now in the society that we live in? What is the best way to go about this?
So one thing that a lot of people don't talk about, like have a plan, man. Because I know for me, I look like, I'm a happy dude, like, but on the inside I struggle with my issues, I struggle with my stuff, and you never know when that sadness is gonna hit.
Never
So having
have.
a plan and knowing like what you're gonna do to be in place, like to make sure that you're safe, that is the best thing in the world. So having a plan, because the worst thing to do is to get in a situation. We all know this. The worst thing to do is to get in a situation and you don't have a plan. You don't have an exit route. You don't have an exfil. You don't have like you got to have a plan in anything that you do, especially when it comes to sadness. And if it gets too heavy, if you're a vet, you know the VA's number, and when you call that VA number, they say on there, if you're thinking about harming yourself or having thoughts of suicide, press
And
the.
we will right now, we will put that number right here so that if you don't know the number, it's literally right where my finger is pointing, somewhere in this section. It will be there because it is important. We need these people to come back and be able to be.
Yeah, because like I said, I reached out, I talked to people, I still talk to people to this day. I have no shame in telling people that I do. And I feel like because of that, those hard decisions that's made, the realizing and talking to a therapist, realize that like, there is something other than causing chaos in the world. There is something more worth than causing chaos, and that's to fix this world. And I'm fine with that. And I'm happy that I was able to do that.
So my last question, I guess, because normally I would ask at this point of the show, before I send it to my sponsor, I would ask, why did you choose the place that I went to college? And why would you choose Division III athletics? You chose neither. My question to you is, what is the belief right now of the soldiers that are about to come home? Are they there to come back and assimilate, or are they going to struggle with that, assimilating back into these people, regular civilians, right? That's what you would, as a military man, that's what you would call them. They are regular civilians. You have a special thing that it makes you what your job is. You were this. What is that like to come back into real life? The whole coming back and assimilating back, how does that work?
So I know one thing the soldiers are known to have is to be stubborn, to be tough, and to be able to adapt to the roughest of circumstances and make the best of it. And I will say this: when I came home and when I got medically retired, it was hard. It was definitely really, really hard. But my soldier's instincts kicked in, and I was able to make it work. So everyone, to all the vets that are watching this that are thinking about getting out, you might be scared, and they might be trying to scare you, but trust me, there's a lot out in this world, man. And there's more to this world than the military. So don't be scared, one. And two, you're a soldier. You're gonna, as we say in the military, take a knee, drink some water, and keep carrying on, man. And that's
Moving
just
on, keep going.
yep, and that's just how it is, man.
Well, at that point, Vada, I want to thank you once again on behalf of everybody that watches the show and the people that work on this show. You have given more than enough to your country, and I thank you 100% for everything that you've done. I thank you for your friendship, and I thank you for being on the show.
Oh man, I appreciate that.
This is Specialist Vada Dobbins, the United States Army. I am Carla Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. And I mean, I guess there's no other place to send it than to the guy that has the only business in town here in Bethany, Chambers General Store. Harry Chambers, he's going to tell you everything about if they don't have it, you don't need it. It's actually on a shirt. You can buy it. Vada, I'll get you a shirt. Don't worry about it. We're already in the work of sending it out to Colorado. It's just a shipping thing right now. You shipped me something. There were some problems.
Yes.
we have some problems with our post office to your post office. But Not only does Chambers General Store have some great t-shirts, they have breakfast sandwiches. They have specials every day. Harry Chambers and the family has been there for 100 plus years. There's really no other way to say if you came to Bethany and you didn't stop at Chambers, did you actually stop at Bethany other than just looking at you and going, oh, you went to Bethany? You stopped at Chambers? No, you didn't go to Bethany. So without further ado, Vada, I want to thank you from everybody here in Bethany, everybody here that we know, our friends, Ryan Cummings, Brandon Plunkett, and Derek Emmerich, Spencer T. Spencer Schmeck, whichever way you want to go with it, and the rest of us from the class of 2010. As somebody that graduated with you, I thank you 100% for everything you've done. I appreciate you being on the show. And without further ado, I'm going to send it to the other staple of Bethany, which is the one business that's left, Chambers General Store. Thank you. And this has been Dingo Talk. I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Specialist Vada Dobbins from the United States military, and Harry Chambers, take us away.
While you're in Bethany, make sure you stop in the store for a daily lunch special, breakfast sandwiches all day. Try out the biscuits and gravy, guaranteed it'll fill you up. And also look for our new burnt orange Chambers, if we don't have it, you don't need it t-shirts, and our psychedelic green 3rd edition Bethany Mushroom Capital of the World t-shirts. Now back to you, Dingo.
You wanna know by now.